Correct. We have 2 days of focus group meetings and 5 meetings total, and then 2 more town hall meetings. And the transportation data collection still is in the works. So there's still quite a bit of time between now and a final report. But between now and the next committee meeting, what we can do is we can distill the 50 plus comments that have come in and include that within the next town hall summary.
I did just email the 270 business owners a link to that too, Billy.
Perfect.
It's nice if they weigh in.
Thank you. Yep.
I have one thing. This is Leonard Sobchak. I don't know if you're familiar with the history of the split between homeowners and renters in Shorewood, but Shorewood used to never allow any overnight parking at all because of the quote-unquote crime potential. And then I led a drive where we signed petitions on behalf of renters because I'm a landlord, and pointed out that 50% of the households in Shorewood are renters and the future homeowners. And we worked quite hard to get the policy changed against,
When was that?
maybe 10 years ago. I don't do, because I was on the Shorewood bid representing.
When we started expanding South Street parking on Oakland and Wilson and
Yeah.
off Cape.
But we would have apartments sitting vacant because there was no place for tenants to park unless they parked 6 blocks away and walked.
Yeah.
And it was pretty discriminatory and pretty mean-spirited on behalf of the homeowners against the renters. And so that did get changed, and I can see the pushback reemerging against renters. So it's a feud.
The current policy is, there's a lot of inequity in it if you're in a 2 or larger, or 3 or larger complex.
Apartment building, yeah.
Yeah, you can't get them on the street.
Yeah, well, we have each one of our buildings
Certain
gets
days.
assigned a certain number of permits and, that kind of thing, that we buy them all up and
Yeah, open.
give them to our
It is
tenants.
difficult. I'll admit I'm a Shorewood renter, and when I told my wife I'm on this board, a lot of times she's like, "You're stretching yourself too thin." When she heard it's parking and traffic, she goes, "Oh yeah." She goes, "I'm parking on the street after this." I go, "Well, I cannot promise you that."
Yeah, it was a battle, and
Yeah, you
people
don't
were.
get a parking pass because you're on it.
Exactly. That's what I make clear. This isn't a free ticket now.
Yeah.
But, no, we've definitely had an experience.
Oh, so you're a renter, and yeah, oh yeah.
And I
it
mean,
was
actually, we do
awful.
get one slab off with off street that our landlord provides, but with a baby at home and a
Right.
business, you gotta have a second vehicle. So we pay to park on Shore Boulevard next to the library
Mhm.
monthly. So I'm very fortunate it's close to our home, but yeah, if I had to live further away, it'd be difficult.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Long ago, I used to walk those 6 blocks, so I know.
Oh, you know what I'm talking
I know
about?
what you're talking about.
And now you're a
Now I'm a homeowner.
bingo.
But it's difficult because I totally understand the rules and the regulations behind it, but it can be frustrating.
A single woman walking
Sure.
late at night, 6 blocks was not good.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, and maybe I could just email this too, but now I started. Just a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I completed a huge analysis on every bus stop in the village and had a gazillion different columns on what the footage is, if it could support a shelter, what the condition. So I don't want you to start from scratch. I'm sure Bart can find that, but none of the Oakland and Capitol really can support shelters. Just
Oh.
FYI.
Can support the
A
shoulders.
shelter, because I
Shelter.
noticed comments about that,
Oh,
so.
oh.
And wayfinding has been researched and recommended, it's just been put on hold. It's been
What is wayfinding?
like, that way, Village Hall Library or.
Oh,
things like
signs
that. Yeah,
directing.
SARS, signs, right. Yeah.
Business
Parking.
district this
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just been, put on hold to, the design is done.
So, there, on the on-street parking, you mentioned briefly, but we have the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, it's just south of us, there's
Correct.
27,000 students. Is there gonna be any, if changes are proposed, is there gonna be any best practice analysis on university communities and what, before we jump off, if we do some changes, what impacts or what best practices we might wanna think about? I know.
In terms of commuters, are you thinking, or in terms of residents?
Anything.
Students parking on the streets in
Student
Charlotte.
parking, daytime,
You're talking,
and reserving spots for residents, like Cambridge Woods has like half are residents, half are non-residents. I mean, that's kind of what I think the Atwater Beach thing is how do you preserve parking for the local people living there while you still have parking
Yeah.
for, and that one thing I am
And what
concerned. I am concerned about this title, equitable access, because this research implies somehow the village, I don't know who's directing you to do this research, but maybe it was a resident suggested, but to imply that as a community, we're somehow non-resident, we're gonna discriminate against non-residents in a different way. I think we might wanna, you may in future be specific on where this idea is coming from. It's not is it your idea or your professional idea?
No.
So, yeah.
No,
A lot of push.
no, this is feedback from the people,
Okay,
in how what we heard and what we read. So, what we can do is, sanitize that.
yeah, I would,
And just to the comment, two comments, one on the, multifamily, residential and on-street. You know, one thing, and this is just to kind of give you peace of mind as you go forward. You know, one lens through which we'll be looking at solutions is, you know, how do we improve the quality of life and access in the village of Shorewood? How do we improve that? Are there policies in place that are impeding that? And on-street parking is something that is very hard for a community to not have and function well, unless it's a very pedestrian-centric and bike-centric community without seasonality effects. You know, we see most communities, even if we're talking Southern California, you know, their parking is a critical component to ensuring access for residents, for renters that are residents, for businesses. So it's more fine-tuning and adjusting if needed. It's not eliminating. There may be areas that physically, you know, the width of the road would prohibit, you know, having parking on both sides from a safety standpoint. You know, we will bring that to the attention of the village, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a choice that the village will make whether that space is more valuable than any, you know, change that they may that we may identify as a potential way to enhance traffic flow. So it's a balance. And then the second piece about the university, you know, the town-gown relationships. I think what you were referencing as far as forms of restrictions and preferences to different user groups, it really comes down to a residential permit program, and those have been explored in other communities similar to Racine, and you really there's a protocol to get that implemented. Very few communities have a citywide residential permit program with the same rules applied to everybody, because those who aren't located in proximate to the university campus, you know, should not be impacted by a permit program that's, you know, irrelevant to them. So you get into some policy discussions there, and what we, you know, see it ultimately at the end of the day is what are the policies on the university campus that are encouraging, incentivizing, you know, students and commuters and even faculty members to park on campus, and what policies are in place on street that maybe would discourage them from parking long-term on street. And you know, it's creating a carrot with a enforcement stick as well. And the carrot is, creating a quality alternative on campus. We've worked in university towns all over the country, and many times the universities will choose to use peripheral parking on the campus as free or very low cost commuter parking. And it's a challenge when you're competing against on-street that's largely unregulated or unenforced, or that isn't enforced on a regular basis. People will choose the path of least resistance. They'll park on street. And so it's really about managing that demand, not eliminating the demand. And solutions, most of the time lie between the municipality and the university finding policies that complement one another and encourage the student body and the university community to park where they're intended to park.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so any other questions or comments
Broader
on,
context on
yeah,
that.
on the summary itself?
On exhibit 4, I don't know, it doesn't identify the middle school, and I don't know, which is just southwest of the high school, I don't,
Or
Sure.
Atwater School either.
oh, it doesn't have Atwater either.
Not in exhibit 4, Atwater's in.
It's not
Oh, it's
three.
not
Yeah.
3.
Three.
I'm just,
Nope, good points.
Bart, did you have another one of these Spanish ones, or if not, that can just be up.
Not here, I don't believe.
I'll do.
So copy it?
Oh. Why don't we get that back later? Okay, thanks.
Okay. And then, yeah, I just, while we're on exhibit 4, we referenced the Downer Woods Natural Area, we might just wanna call that EWM at some point as well. Just to acknowledge that
Sure.
that's where that pressure is coming from, I don't know, but, I think we all know where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else other than that? I can transition to, requesting your help in promoting the event on, Tuesday, so this is a quick summary. We are not sending out postcards for this event, so for the first round, we did send out postcards, to every, resident in the village, and so that was a big expenditure that we could only do one time, so we were hoping that would get people interested in the project and that we could, move forward with that, so for this round, we're relying on a lot of,
We're gonna send this to all of our tenants.
Okay, perfect, yeah, so I've
Great.
sent the poster out to everyone, if you can find a
Poster
way
to
to use it,
everyone, going out
great.
tomorrow.
I've also sent out, so Erica mentioned sending it to the businesses, in some fashion, an invitation and a comment form, is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, actually,
Yeah, if we
with the
could
town
get
hall
it on the
poster.
windows of all the businesses, that would be good.
So I've walked, some of the businesses, but if the bid can help, or if businesses can help me post out there, I'm happy to print them off if you wanna come and pick them up.
I'm not handing, I'm not putting,
But yeah, so I did put them
Oh,
up
come on.
in various locations.
I do it for too many other.
Right, no, I appreciate that, cause so I spent 2 days doing that so far.
There's-
I did also send an email invitation along with the comment form to all current current permit parkers, so it was roughly 440, I believe, that we had emails for, so I sent that out as well
Oh, that's good.
to get them,
Yes.
interested in it, so we're trying our best
Yeah, that
to
looked good.
overcome the no postcard. The school district has allowed us to put it on their sign, the
Oh,
electronic
that's
message
great.
center, so that,
It's on there.
that's been up there as of, I think, yesterday, so that'll be flashing, all weekend and through the next week. It's in the village manager's memo last week and this week, just to keep people, informed of that, so if there's anything else that you guys can think of in terms of getting it out there, feel free to let me know, I'm happy to.
Can a specific email be sent to the distribution list of the manager's memo just about this town hall?
Yeah, I can see I know we have it, right?
That's
I
Good
know
idea.
I rarely read the whole village manager's memo. Hate
Sure.
to admit it.
Hey,
It's long.
hey.
So if there's a way to distribute to any other list that the village has,
Okay,
that's not gonna trigger some spam issue.
Sure.
I mean, we might as well use them.
Yeah.
We've got the emails. There'll probably some overlap with others, but why not?
yeah. I'll talk with Tyler and Rebecca about that and see if there's any sort of prohibition on us spamming them with other things they didn't sign up for, but we'll give it a shot. Yeah, other than that,
Manager's memo auxiliary.
if you have ideas, feel free to let me know, but yeah, it's next Tuesday, so hopefully we can get, people in the door to share their ideas with us, because it's a very important topic, obviously, that we'd like to make sure we have the data before we make the policy recommendations, which Phil mentioned will be coming post focus group and final town halls. So
I would like to share.
Correct. Yep.
So, I do have a question, just so I can clarify this in my mind. So we're collecting data in two ways. Analytically, I'm guessing, on the street with counters and other things, and anecdotally through these meetings.
correct.
And this report is going to somehow merge those two things together and come up with some recommendations, or are they kind of separate things where the analytical data is one thing and the anecdotal data is another thing? Am I saying that right?
No, there's the quantified and the qualified data, and I understand exactly what you're saying, and just a way to simply kind of look at how this information is used. The data is definitely going to help. It's going to identify hotspots, problem areas, and it's going to lead us to some very tangible recommendations. The meetings and the input from the community, it's either going to support, or it's going to raise our attention to take another look, and it's also going to help shape policy. By no means is it a voting mechanism. I mean, we're here to do an independent analysis, but obtaining community input, and that's critical. But we also understand, and that echoes the comment that was brought up on this call, that there may not be a real diverse representation at these meetings, so we need to be careful. We need to weigh comments accordingly.